So I'm going to show you something right now, and I think I'm going to show this a lot more to a lot more people, because I think this is what's going on in America. You know, I'm saying that I'm not going to turn on my neighbor. I'm not going to blame my neighbor for the policies of the oligarchy that are keeping us poor and sick. I'm not going to blame a school bus driver because of their COVID policy that bankrupted me. I'm not going to blame a nurse's aide. I'm not going to blame a cashier. They're not your enemy. They're also victims of this oligarchy. And your democracy was stolen from you a long time ago, somewhere around 1980. So this idea that you're fighting, this idea now the Democrats have, because Democrats can't win elections anymore. Nobody would have voted for Joe Biden if they weren't faced with the threat of Nazi, white supremacist fascism and an infiltration of Russia. They had to use everything to get people to vote for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is everything they claimed Trump was. Joe Biden is the architect of our racist criminal justice system. He bragged they put everybody in jail. They do everything but hang you for jaywalking. That's a direct quote from him. He was bragging about his bill. He's the one who made it so that people can't ever get rid of their medical debt. He's the one who did that. An enemy of people and a puppet of the credit card industry and Wall Street. He's the one who built those cages that they put the Hispanic immigrants in. Joe Biden did that. Joe Biden said he didn't want to grow up in a racial jungle. Joe Biden said that. He didn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle. Joe Biden said that. Joe Biden voted for the Iraq War. Joe Biden participated in not prosecuting torturers when he was supposed to. Go ahead, Kurt.
Just credit where credit is due. In those current kid cages, they are directed to call them Latinx from now on.
Okay, that'll make them feel better. Joe Biden had to drop out of running for president the first time he did it because he was a serial plagiarist. So if you're voting for him because you hate that Trump's a big liar, you just voted in a bigger liar. And a guy who has done way more to hurt black and brown people than Trump ever did. So this idea, but they have to tell themselves we're fighting white supremacy. They have to tell themselves that they're fighting Nazis. They have to tell themselves that they're trying to save democracy, which was stolen from you in 1980. By the way, the Princeton study proved that. We live in an oligarchy. What you think about policy never gets reflected unless you're in the top 10% of income earners. So there is no democracy. If there was, we'd have a fucking living wage, a minimum wage, and we'd have health care. We don't have any of that. So this is part of it. Here's the cultural narrative that keeps us angry at each other and keeps us believing in the fantasy that there's two parties in this country. We have two right-wing parties that answer to the exact same people. Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, big pharma, tech, and the health insurance companies, and big oil. That's it. That's one party. We do not have two parties, you chump. Which is why Joe Biden promised you a $2,000 check and didn't give it to you. He promised you a public option and didn't give it to you. He promised student debt relief. He's not giving it to you. He promised a $15 minimum wage. He's not giving it to you. He's not giving you shit because he answers to the exact same people as the Republican Party does. Mitch McConnell's owners are Joe Biden's owners. So now they have to make half the country to vote for Democrats. They have to make them think their neighbors are white supremacists who want to steal their democracy from them. Every one of them are. Here it is. Two fundamental truths that the left center as a collective are failing to emotionally and intellectually accept and understand. By the way, the Democratic Party is not a left party. They're a right-wing party. And you know who said that? AOC. They're not a left. She said they're a right-wing party because they are. And Joe Biden wouldn't be considered a centrist in any other fucking country on earth. He'd be considered a right-wing radical, denying people health care, education, warmongering, putting kids in cages. That's what he's doing. So this is the two fundamental truths that the left center as a collective are failing to emotionally and intellectually accept and understand. One, the GOP is authoritarian and intends to end our democracy. You mean the GOP is firing people from their jobs in case they take and enforcing a medical procedure on them? That seems authoritarian. You mean the GOP is making people show their papers when they want to travel inside or outside the United States? They have to show their papers if they want to go have lunch. They have to show their papers if they want to go to a grocery. What the fuck? What could be more authoritarian than that? So this is part of this propaganda that the Democrats have to do to get you to vote for Democrats, because they got nothing to offer you. Once our democracy is dead, there's no legal way to bring it back. So this, by the way, it got 14,000 likes. That's why I'm showing you this. It got 4,000 retweets. It got 14,000 likes. This is the divisive crap that we are pushing back against at the Jimmy Dore Show. First of all, the Democratic Party is authoritarian and already ended our democracy. It's been ended. You don't live in a democracy. FYI. And I love this. It says, the whole Republican-Democrat thing is a false dichotomy and indicative of a rigged system. Even the words liberal and conservative are false paradigms. Our beliefs have nuance, so they can't neatly fit into a box. However, the powers that be would love nothing more than for us to become even more binary in our thinking, as it's easier to control us. It's by controlling the oppositions that they instigate us to fight one another instead of exposing them, ousting those who are really pulling the strings. I'm not going to be mad at an unemployed gun nut. I'm not going to be mad at an unemployed militia. I'm not going to be mad at a guy who is being crushed by lockdowns or losing his job because of mandates. I'm not going to be angry at that guy. I'm keeping my anger and ire for the oligarchy who is orchestrating this while funneling trillions of dollars upward to people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. In the middle of everyone else going broke, the oligarchy is creating billionaires. That's who you need to keep your ire for. That's who you need to keep your attention on. Don't be angry at your neighbor. They're not the fucking enemy. They are also victims. And if you think the Democratic Party is your savior, you are a fucking chump and a propagandist. Anything you want to add to that, Kurt?
Does it ever strike you that, you know, the red and blue, like they use the same exact colors as the Crips and Bloods?
Yes.
Except the Crips and Bloods at least will make sure you have fair, cheap access to drugs as compared to...
That's right. And there you go. So now you know the rest of the story, and now you know what is going on in this country, because the Democrats can't win elections anymore. You think Kamala Harris can get a vote in 2024 unless they convince you she's running against the KKK and Hitler? No, that's it. That's all they got going forward. As they keep you from health care, a living wage, student debt relief, and a clean environment. As they keep you from ending the wars and investing that money back here. It's amazing. They'll mandate that you get you get a vaccine. They'll mandate you take an emergency use authorization vaccine. They'll mandate that, but they won't mandate that you get health care. They won't mandate that if you get sick that you get health care, or that if you get sick from that jab that you get health care. Like me. Hey, come see a live stand-up show. We're doing New Year's Eve in Studio City. In January, we'll be in Raleigh, North Carolina. In February, we're going to be in Philadelphia. Go to jimmydoorecomedy.com for a link for all our tickets.